What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Sold Value video here. We're doing a whole series where we're covering all our values here at Sold. And today, on this one, we're gonna cover the cross, the beautiful cross. You know, Jesus said, unless you take up the cross and follow me, you can't be my disciple. So at the core of discipleship and a lifestyle that's following Jesus, we must understand the wisdom of the cross. What is the cross? Well, it's a tool that God is using to conform us to the image of Jesus. In Romans chapter 8, it talks about that we are predestined to be conformed to the image of Jesus. So God's goal in our lives, in your life, is to make you look more like His Son, Jesus. And all of our lives are very intricately designed, and we're actually designed individually in such a unique way that only God knows the way to change us to look more like Jesus. And there are obviously other voices in our lives to help us walk that road. But the cross is God's tool to us personally, that is personally given to us by invitation, that says, if you choose to take up the cross, these crosses will chip away at the things that hinder my expression shining through your life. So the cross is an invitation that Jesus gives us into. When we embrace it, we begin to walk through different trials and circumstances and different things that, whether they're external or internal, they're allowing us to bear up under a weight and a pressure that will deliver us ultimately from ourselves. I believe the greatest enemy in our lives is our own selves, which Jesus invites us to surrender, right? He says, unless you deny yourself, right? Going back to the cross, unless you deny yourself and take up the cross, you can't be my disciple. So part of taking up the cross, the first step, is denying your self-nature, because this selfish nature wants everything for itself. But when we choose to follow Him, we're saying, you are greater than I. I'm going to follow you because you're worthy, and I believe that your leadership is perfect. And this is why the revelation of Jesus is primary to any of our discipleship tools and methods. It's seeing who He is and His worth, that we are willing to deny ourselves, that we're willing to take up the cross and begin to embrace the wisdom of God in crushing us and delivering us from ourselves. You know, the climax of Jesus' life was the day that He took up the cross and physically died, and He shed His blood to bring all of us into God's family. And if that is the fruit of a man, the one that didn't deserve to take up a cross, the one that didn't need to take up a cross, but He took it because of love. And you see, this is the same invitation that's given to us. Yes, the cross of Christ has brought us into the family. We don't work for salvation. It's nothing that we've deserved. It's nothing that we've done. We receive it by faith, and now we're saved. But now the invitation of this love journey and of laying down our lives for others to come in is us taking up the crosses that Jesus is giving us through the life rhythms of day to day, right? Jesus's ultimate expression, like we said, was the one day He died. But He had many other crosses that He endured throughout all of His life. And it's the very subtle things in the mundaneness of life that we get to choose to lay down our lives for others. You know, Romans 12 talks about presenting our bodies as a living sacrifice. And when we lay down our lives, our bodies, our will, our emotions for Jesus and His wisdom and His voice that leads us into a level of obedience and different invitations through life, or whether it's things that are by nature, you know, whether it's work or family or different relationships in our lives, there's crosses coming all day. If we can recognize these invitations really to allow the different circumstances to change us and make us more dependent on Jesus, and allow His voice to come seeping through these different circumstances in our lives. This is God's goal, your conformity to Jesus, His Son. And that's why you have the Spirit. And that's why He's empowering you by grace, by the finished work of the cross, that it is finished. All you have to do is be a recipient of God's grace and see the wisdom of God through the crosses He's offering you. In 1 Corinthians, it talks about if the rulers of the day knew what the cross would have done in accomplishing the victory of Christ and the liberation of all souls that believe on the name of Jesus. If they knew what they were doing when they crucified Jesus, they would have never have crucified Him. And this is why the cross is too high of a wisdom for the enemy to understand. How can crushing, how can trials, how can conflict actually produce glory? And this is why he's going to throw everything at you to stop you from seeing the wisdom of God through the cross. But Jesus embracing the cross has now brought us into the kingdom, into the family, right? And so if this one man has brought all of us into the kingdom by the cross, by the wisdom of God revealed through the cross, how much more we, as continuation of this legacy, of this story, of this eternal story of God, when we see the wisdom of God, when He hands us these crosses, that we won't retreat or run away from this beautiful invitation to love Him and love those around us. So I encourage you, take heart, renew your mind, allow God to transform the way you view the different difficulties that approach all of us in life, and begin to see through the wisdom of God that God is changing you to look more like Jesus. So may we all respond and take up our cross and follow Jesus till the end. Thanks guys for joining this value of Sold, taking up your cross. Make sure you watch all the rest and get acquainted with who we are. God bless you guys.